out to Leshevsky. Leshevsky 4-3. Got it!
Money, huddle, gotta, cuddle, lot of orders, dollars, quarters.
Irish fans to Breaking Down Braves Boys podcast. Today I'm with Jake, and we're doing the 2019-2020 season recap. This year, they went 20-12 overall, 10-10 in the ACC. They probably would have missed the tournament, but in our opinion, they would have made a run in the ACC tournament. They ended the season with a win against Boston College, 80-58. Nice way to go out for seniors John Mooney, Rex Pfluger, and TJ Gibbs, who they'll be losing at the end, for next year. Nearly every loss was close this year, one of the more frustrating years we've had. They never got a big win. They were awfully close against Louisville, against Florida State twice, and a couple other teams. But they probably would have missed the NCAA tournament and still made the NIT. Who knows? But they could have made a run. This team was good. They were frustrating. But let's get into the game by game. Now into the game by game. First, Notre Dame started the season off with UNC in Chapel Hill. Obviously, we didn't have super high hopes going into that game. We lost 76-65. Jake, what do you have to say about that one?
We had them early. I believe we were winning at halftime, and I think we were even winning with 10 minutes left. But watching that game, I really thought Cole Anthony would be the number one pick. He just went off. You couldn't stop him. He could not be. It was incredible to watch. Not much you can really do about that. So we'll see where talent takes, but it really showed in that game.
Yeah, definitely. That was probably Cole Anthony's best game in his college career. He wasn't too good in the first half, but in the second half, he kind of just exploded. We couldn't shot for shot with him, and that was kind of the story of the year. So now in the smaller non-conference game, they played Robert Morris, Howard, Marshall, Presbyterian, Toledo, Fairleigh Dickinson, Detroit Mercy, and Alabama. Most of those are just confidence builders. Toledo is a nice one to have. What do you think about those, Jake? Any notes from any of those games?
None of them really stood out to me besides Toledo because it was closer than it should have been, and the Nate winner got it. I actually fell asleep during that game, so I didn't see the winner of the overtime. But if Toledo really went downhill after that, if they had lost that one, that would have been a bad look on the resume. Thankfully, they won it. And then the Detroit Mercy game was one of the most dominant showings that I've ever seen of Notre Dame basketball. I think it might have been Bray's largest win ever, or maybe even so. That one also stood out to me, and I liked one of the guards they had. But those are the only other notable ones. But the rest were just irrelevant games. But what I do to watch an irrelevant sports game right now. So that's what I think of those.
Yeah, Detroit Mercy was 110-71, and Dane Goodwin 27 points, probably his career high.
Yeah, it is, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of those games, they played maybe their worst game of the year against Maryland. He said after the game that Maryland was the varsity, we were the junior varsity. That game also had the Robbie Carmody injury, but Maryland was one of the best teams in the country. A lot of people thought they could have made a deep run in March Madness. They lost 72-51, which was way worse than that, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, Maryland was great. Maryland was a great team. I don't wish to use that as an excuse, though, because again, they should at least be competitive. Even if you're a Power 5 team and a decent one at that, you should at least be competitive with those type of teams. They got their asses kicked, and the Carmody injury just sucked. It really just sucked. There's no other way to put it. And that game sucked, really.
Yeah, just really bad garbage time injury. But John Mooney still got a double-double somehow against one of the best centers in the country. So at least that
What's now?
one of a positive. So yeah, and then after that was another really awful showing. The first Boston College game, 73-72 loss. Kind of a preview of the season in a way because of the heartbreaking ending. TJ Gibbs missing the free throw that would have tied the game. Any thoughts about that one? I know that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that kind of sucked. Weren't they down by a lot too? And then they made a run. They made like a really quick run. That makes it worse to like take. But again, if you're not in that position to take that run, then you would have won that game. So remember we saw he missed the last second free throw. I think it was Gibbs.
Yeah, Gibbs.
That was their first loss. The first time Ray ever lost to BC at home. So I think the last time they did it was in the 90s. So I mean that always sucks. That was a bad loss.
Yeah, especially as we saw later in the season how maybe not bad, but how better we actually are than Boston College in the ACC tournament game. We could just go out there and outplay them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been a nice. It would be a lot nicer to be 11-9 in the ACC than 10-10, but can't get them all. And then after that was a big win with UCLA. Turned out to be a nice win for them. Hub led them with 20 points. Any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, I'd argue from a resume standpoint that was our best win of the year.
Yeah.
Like when you ask a Notre Dame fan, they'll say, "Okay, UNC was the best win," and I'm not gonna like do from like it probably was the best win, but if you're looking like on paper, it was the UCLA win because I mean they were the best team we beat. I mean, weren't they first in the Pac-12 at some point? I think Colorado might have gone in there, but like that was an impressive win, and they won by like what 10 or 11.
75-61, 14-point win.
Okay, I was going to say 64. Yeah, that was a very solid win. It aged very well. Yeah.
If you have Sharif O'Neal coming off the bench like they did in that game, that's definitely a big win. Also, that was a pretty entertaining game on ESPN with Digger Phelps and Bill Walton calling it. I didn't think I could.
Yeah, those two.
And then that seemed like a turning point in the season for the better. And then after that, they go to Indiana and they lose by 2 in a game they probably should have won. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that sucked. They played well. That's like the kind of win that sucks, but you don't really. Well, actually, no. I'm not going to say you don't fault them because they were behind by too much, and even though they came back and took the lead, again, if you never had to do that, like the Boston College game, you would have already won it. And they only lost by 2. Again, like better teams turn those close L's into close W's, and they just didn't. I mean that's kind of the games that like the better team closes out, and they didn't. Really, that was frustrating.
And then after that was a game that a lot of people think was the most entertaining game of the year. Syracuse game. We played well in the first one and pulled it out. What was the score? 88-87. Mooney had 28 and 14, which is insane. Really good showing by them. They showed they could score on the 2-3 zone that Jim Boeheim likes to run. But any thoughts on that one? That was a crazy game.
Yeah, I said at that point that was the best win of the season. I mean, not that there was a lot of competition, but to go to the Dome and get a win is always good. I mean, even I don't care what Syracuse team it is, to go to the Dome and win, I mean, is always good, you know. So, and that was a close one too. Uh, I'd say that was our most underrated win of the year too. I always like the ACC Network showed a few replays of it, and I watched it. It was a really entertaining game to like catch the whole thing. Cause yeah,
Yeah, I guess
that's what.
we'll go to the other one as well. Do them both at the same time. Syracuse won the second game in South Bend, 84-82. What's interesting about that game, Moody had 21, 13, 6, which is insane. But you would like to sweep them, but those are both such close games. You knew neither team was going to sweep. Prentice Hub hit that big shot at the end of the game, but it was too late. Good game, but not an ideal way to end it. What do you think about that?
I would say the way I felt about winning against Syracuse was probably how Syracuse felt about winning that game. A close one. It was a very entertaining one. I think the better team won. It's always frustrating to lose, but I guess you can't win them all, really.
And then the game after the first Syracuse game was NC State. That one I was really disappointed in. National TV game. They have a 14-point lead at one point, and they blew it. They didn't have depth at that point. They were gassed. Mooney looked especially gassed. They just couldn't finish it. Kind of somewhat of the story of the year preview. Definitely one of the more disappointing games of the year. What was Greg calling them? Like a tier 1 win? I forget exactly what they call that, but that would have been a big win in terms of March Madness. Any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, well, Rex was hurt. Joga was hurt. So they were running a 6-man rotation, which they had no guards off the bench. So it kind of forced a weird fit with Mooney at the 3, even though Nate might have been better. So they're just gas. I mean, I did the math in my head. If you have 200 minutes to go around, 6 players, that's 33 minutes a player. You're just going to be gassed, especially when some of them played 40 minutes. I mean, they had the lead too. I mean, that just makes it worse. It was just really infuriating. That was my second. I don't know. Impressively, that might not have even been a bottom 3 loss, but it was really infuriating.
Yeah, definitely. And then after
it might have been worst.
First,
What?
you said that was your least favorite game?
No, I said it might have been only the 5th worst.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess Florida State. Yeah, there's a lot. But then after NC State, we didn't really catch a break at all. They blew another lead to Louisville after they came back in the late second half. They came back, got a lead, around a minute left, and they couldn't finish it off. So Mooney had 15 points, 19 rebounds. Again, crazy. But Louisville came into South Bend to beat us because of maybe depth. Again, they were out of gas. Anything else about that one?
Yeah, they didn't really deserve to win that one. I mean, it was good to come back from where they were, but poor decision making. I don't know why they didn't call timeout there at the end. I think it was, and I think it was Gibbs who just made an awful decision at the end. And I mean, I can't really say they deserved to win that one.
Yeah, after that was the first Georgia Tech game. Maybe my favorite game of the year, to be honest. I was there. That was kind of the turning point in the season. I'm at 2-4 in the ACC. I thought that was one of the better played games of the entire year. Really sloppy at all. Hub had 25. He had a bad first half. The crowd was getting in his head. He came back. He had maybe the best second half of any player on the team or in the entire game. But yeah, that might have been my favorite game of the year. Just a great all-around performance. Great end of the game. Hitting free throws. They went like 8 for 8 on free throws in the last couple minutes. Really well executed game. Anything to say about that one, Jake?
The George Jeff game. Yeah, I think Hub had a great game. That was a win I enjoyed. It wasn't like thrilling. It was like relaxing, kind of.
Yeah.
What I'd say,
Mhm.
as opposed to a heart racing one. It was just a very enjoyable win to have, and I think it as you said, it was a turning point in the season. At that point, I think they had a better ACC record. There's many ACC wins at that point in I don't know 6 games it was, as they did in 18 games last year. So I think that was a good win to have, really.
Yeah, definitely. And for the second Georgia Tech game, that one I wasn't really able to watch that game. I wasn't home, but it was 28-10 or 28-10 from Mooney, 80-72 win. I would assume it was another relaxing one, but yeah. What do you have to say about that?
I had a few difficulties watching it. I was scrambling to find a stream because it wasn't on TV, ACC Network, ESPN Plus, but I finally found one. Yeah, it was relaxing. Honestly, that was the ACC game I remember the least. So but yeah, it was a good win to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, didn't Mooney get 1,000 or 2,000 points that game? I feel like he broke some type of record.
I think it might have been that time of season.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see what's after that. FSU, 2 heartbreakers. I think the season would have been drastically different. Well, I guess not in the end, but the record would have looked better. We would have had a better feeling if we could have won. But the lack of depth kind of killed us, I think. Florida State can run 10 guys deep. We didn't even have 10 guys healthy for those games. Bad officiating in the first one especially too. But they showed that we can maybe hang with them. So I guess maybe that's good. But any thoughts on those? I know those were bad.
The first one was kind of I was getting really excited. I'm like, oh wow, if we get this one, this would be huge. I think they were number 5 in the country at the time. And then that last play was just oh, come on. What the heck, man? It was really frustrating to lose that way. The fouls were, let's say, questionable at best. And I think a lot of errors and mistakes also didn't really help our case. Yeah, that really sucked to lose. The second one was just felt like getting kicked in the balls 1,000 times. It really was the low point. It was I'm just I'm just gonna go to sleep because this game makes me so depressed to lose that way. They really had that lead, and you could see it slowly slip away. I'm like, oh, I've seen this movie 1,000 times before, and I'm in a group chat with a few friends on here, and they're sorry, man, it really sucked to lose that way because they really had that win, and even though it didn't matter after the Wake Forest lost, it really sucked because that would have been a great win, and to get momentum heading into ACC tournament, it really sucked to lose that way.
Mm-hmm. That game, you really saw Hug break out too. But like you said, in the first half, I was watching with my dad, and he was like, "Wow, they're better than Florida State. I didn't realize they were this good." And then I told him, "I feel like this is going away. I have a really bad feeling about this." And what do you know? They blew it. Game winner by Florida State. One of the more depressing games of the year, like you said. So yeah. And then Wake Forest, we touched on this, but we lost to the worst team in the ACC in the second game. We should have swept them. The first game was good, but we couldn't stop Sarr. He killed us. We're going to have to see him again. Not overly excited about these. You did see Nate Lashesky. You saw him run the 5 a little bit in the first game. He had really good games both, but all for nothing. The second game was really sloppy. Pretty much ended our season. So, what do you have to say about that one, if anything?
That was one of my least favorite games of the year. Maybe that was the most frustrating game of the year because they came back from like a big. I remember in the first half they were down by like 15, and then they came back to tie in the second half, and I think they led, and then it just all slipped away again, and they just like sucked. It was really frustrating. It pissed me off really. The other ones were just like kind of like heartbreaking. That one was just like the one that makes you get angry. So like, yeah, I mean it was. They shouldn't have lost that bad. I kind of saw it coming too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then after that we have Pitt. Pitt was a decent win, gave us a glimmer of hope. Kind of kept the tournament hopes alive at the time. Not a great team, to be honest. In Pitt, what was their record at the time? Not sure, but we won 80-72, just like the second Georgia Tech game. Nothing too noteworthy from that game, in my opinion. But do you have anything?
I feel the same way about Pitt in the game after against Clemson. They were good wins to have. Nothing really notable, but good wins to have. Wins in conference play, wins win. So.
Yeah, for Clemson, I'll just say that stuff because I was there or whatever. One of my favorite games just because of that, but really bad game for them, in my opinion. Amir Simms, Clemson's best player, was sick. He wasn't even playing, and they still only won by 4, and they squeezed it out at the end. Prentice Hub had 3 points. Rex Pfluger had 18. One of the only led the team in scoring, which was cool. But
Rex went off that game.
Mm-hmm.
He was like 4-3.
Yeah, it just wasn't what you wanted to happen against Clemson without their best player. But I will give Clemson that they're a really tough team, and they're gonna pressure the ball. They're gonna force you to make bad decisions, like we saw. But I would have liked to win that by a little bit bigger of a margin, but they still won, so I guess it's all right. But yeah. And then after that was Virginia. Another one, kind of a summary of the season, 50-49. We couldn't score on Virginia's defense. Rex's 3 rimmed out at the end of the game. They were so close, they couldn't pull it off. That would have been another big win. But Hub led the team with 12 points in scoring, if that's what tells you anything. Go ahead if you have anything about Virginia.
Yeah, that of all the games in that category, like the FSU game, I think that FSU games and all the other ones, like, I think that is the one I can say that they were the better team in. I really do think they were the better team. They fought well. They were with Virginia the whole way. We were up at halftime. They were up late. I don't remember if they were up in overtime at all. But they only lost by 1. And that foul call in overtime was a load of shit. Yeah. So, pardon my French. They were the better team in that game. In that game, like, you know, it stinks to lose that way. You know, it was a low scoring game. It was a defensive game. It was an entertaining game too. Again, it was good, but just wasn't good enough in the end.
Mooney missed 2 huge free throws at the end of the game, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing with Mooney. It's like you gotta hit those free throws, dude. It's like I don't get why. I mean, you've seen. Obviously his shooting form was like just really ugly especially for a guy that good. Just like really, it works, but it's ugly. So like, I don't know what's up with that. Hopefully he's fixing it. But that game, I guess at least we could come away with a good feeling that we hung with the defending champs and outplayed them.
And then after that, all that went out the window against the number 7 team in the top at the time. Duke lost 94-60. I didn't really want to do the math there. The one positive was Juwan Durham played well. Elijah Morgan was okay when he came in. But other than that, just really, I don't want to say pathetic, but not good. No Cassius Stanley either. I can't imagine how bad that would have been with Cassius Stanley. But, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, well, they got their asses kicked. Elijah Morgan hit a free. That was good to see. And if we can get even half of that game, every game out of Juwan Durham, then that's awesome. But they really got the shit kicked. I mean, I don't know what the deal was in that game. I mean, the guards. If I can go on my timeline to pull up some of the stats I had, but I mean the shooting from the perimeter guys was just like incredibly bad.
TJ Gibbs scored 0 points.
Yeah, I mean that really sums it up. I mean,
incredible game by Trey Jones.
They just did.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to. I'm gonna pull up the stats I had.
I'm pretty sure Prentice Hub had like 6 turnovers too, which didn't help at all. Like you said, the guards were just really bad.
Okay, so their third highest scorer was Nate Krzyzewski with 6 points. At one point in the game, I want to say this is around halftime. The combined stats of every player not named John Mooney or Juwan Durham: 5 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 for 13 from the field, 1 from 8 from 3, and 6 turnovers. That is like if you put up a middle school team against Duke. They were that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
The less said about that game, the better. So let's move on to the a bright spot in the season in the UNC game.
Mm-hmm. So Mike Brey was actually talking. He was game planning with the guys about UNC.
Yeah, I heard that
game. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's the best game they could have played. Cole Anthony went off again, but Prentice took over the game late in the game. I think a lot of people forget that when they talk about that game. They only think about Nate, but Nate hit a big shot. Prentice took over the game. You really liked what you saw from the sophomore class in that one, even if it wasn't the greatest game of the year in terms of how they played. But what do you have about that one?
It was really frustrating for the first 80% of the game, really, and then they just went on that run. That was incredible. Like, I was gonna switch it off to watch something else, and then I don't know, for whatever reason, I think I just zoned out and started scrolling Twitter, and then I listened, and they're coming back, and it's like, I'm watching this. I'm like, wow, they're really gonna do this, and like, then they did it. I'm like, oh great, they're gonna screw this up, and then Nate hit that winner, and it was like, oh my god, wow! It was just such a great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I still watch the clip from every now and then of that winner. It was great.
Yeah, it's part of our intro now for the video. That's how big.
Yeah, it's.
Also, we can't forget about TJ Gibbs. Like 2 or 3 huge threes late in the game.
Yeah, because he was hitting those like on fast break and like transition. He was like,
they just weren't
like get out to him, and he.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, after that game was the Miami game. Again, Miami's not that good. The notable things from that game were, I'm pretty sure, didn't TJ Gibbs just go off that game? Like he hit every shot he took. I'm pretty sure that was Clemson. Prentice Hub broke his high school teammate Chris Lake's ankles, made him fall. He was actually injured after the play. He broke him so bad. But other than that, just kind of a cakewalk. Miami's not that great. Nice win, though. Anything else?
It was. I used this to describe the game before. I think I got it from this game. It was relaxing to watch. It was relaxing and fun to watch. Like sometimes you need that break. And they were just lights out from three, really, in that game. That was probably their most impressive showing of the year, and I don't think it's even debatable. Like easily.
Yep. And then after that, you said that one was relaxing. Well, the next one wasn't. The second Boston College game, TJ Gibbs hit a really nice game winner, but all around that was maybe the most sloppy they've played the entire year. But they escaped. Boston College luckily isn't that great, so they pulled it off. But not too much else to note unless you have something.
Yeah, that was. I said it when we were on with Jeff Nolan. It was like, okay, they won, but really, it was frustrating how they should have won by more. Like, there's really no excuse to have not done so. It's an awful team, especially after how they got us. They should be coming out with like light a fire under them. Like they should have been more motivated to come out. That Rex 3 was huge, and like it's weird how both the UNC and BC games, last minute winners against bad teams. The Nate winner I went like crazy for, but TJ winner I was like, yeah, I mean obviously I was happy he made it, but it was like I didn't really go crazy because it was frustrating how they were there the whole time. But they couldn't get that advantage out. And UNC was just a crazy run.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was very excited when he hit that shot. Unlike you, when TJ Gibbs was celebrating, I don't know if you've seen that picture. He was celebrating and he was standing right next to Jay Heath, and Jay Heath looked like he wanted to pretty much cry. That was my screen for weeks, pretty much. So I can't lie, I was really excited to hit that. But after that, what we have is Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, another one, in my opinion, like you said, relaxing. Senior day, it was cool, the speeches and stuff, but not super eventful. What did TJ Gibbs have? TJ Gibbs had 22. Mooney had 13 rebounds. Nice game to end it on, but not super eventful, if you ask me. What do you have about that one, if anything?
I don't remember. I mean, I watched the game, but I don't remember much because it didn't really matter. I mean, but it was a good way to send the seniors off with a win. I'm glad we honored them. And it's always, you'd prefer to get a win heading into the ACC tournament. So that was a good game.
And then after that, the last game of the season, none of us really knew. I was there. I high-fived John Mooney while coronavirus was going on. Maybe not the smartest decision, but nice way to send off the seniors, even if they didn't know it. The night, pretty much everything got shut down. It was nice that we got to see them one last time. But, yeah. What do you have about that one?
Weren't fans not allowed in that game?
No, fans were not going to be allowed in the UVA game. They were allowed at BC, though.
Oh, okay. I think they might have announced it during the game. That was great. That probably, I guess there's definitely an angle from where you could say that was the best one of the season. It was impressive. It was in postseason play. And little did we know that was it. That was it for 4 years of Gibbs and Mooney and 5 years of Rex. So they ended their Notre Dame careers with a win. Maybe that's better than losing, even if season continued. Like, they can say they ended their Notre Dame careers with a win. Not many college basketball players get to say that. So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That was a win. I think they would have beaten Virginia and lost to Louisville after that, but we'll never know.
Yeah. Coach Humphrey, on our interview with him, he said that was his favorite game of the year. I don't know if I fully agree with that, even though I was there, but still really fun game. Nice win, just lit up BC. It was really satisfying after they came out sluggish against them the last. But yeah, that's all we have for the game by game. Now we'll go on to player by player. So stick around. So now on to our player by player. We're going to break down briefly every player on the team in their season. Some of these guys will have separate videos, so we're not going to go super in depth on them. But let's start off with Prentice Hub, a guy I did a video on a few weeks ago. He went from 8 points and 4 assists last year to 12 points and 5 assists this year. He led the team in assists, one of the leading scorers, developed into a great scorer. He took over a few games like the FSU game and the UNC game, which was really good to see, but there were still consistency issues. He wasn't that great at home. Anything you have to say about Prentice, Jake?
Yeah, I think, he had a good season. It was a good season of growth after finding his feet last year and finding his footing after he missed his senior year of high school basketball with an ACL tear. So I think this was his first real year, and he did really good. I think he's a pretty underrated player. What he brings to the team with running the point, with some of his ball handling and distribution. I think next year the sky's the limit for him. It's his team now. He can really hit the ground running. So now I guess it's time for the sprint. This can be his team. If he can improve his shooting, then we're looking at an all ACC player, really.
Mm-hmm. I think Cormac Ryan especially will help him out in the backcourt. Another guy who can get to the basket, score off the dribble, maybe stuff that TJ Gibbs. Well, TJ Gibbs was a nice compliment. I think Cormac Ryan has maybe a wider offensive skill set than Gibbs did. But let's get into Gibbs now. He had a really awesome season from the three-point line. He shot 42%. There was some stuff, like I said, maybe he wasn't the most diverse offensive player. He kind of developed into just a shooter, maybe not just a shooter, but mostly a shooter. 13.3 points per game, second on the team in scoring. Really nice way to end his senior year. Mike Brey said it. TJ Gibbs had as good of a year as you can possibly have from a guard in the ACC. What do you have about TJ?
Yeah, TJ had a really good year. I mean, as you said, he was good from free. Second best player on the team, so that's a loss. He's not a superstar or anything, but I think really an underrated player, and they're gonna miss him. He had a very good career here, and I think he'll continue to be underrated. Not a perfect player, but he doesn't have any huge moments, but I think he was always solidly there and solidly consistent and productive, which I might prefer to some other players might have been. Really, I'll miss him a lot. I think he can make a career for this out of himself. So good luck to him. Really.
Yeah, I think he could definitely play at the next level. Maybe overseas. Maybe in the G League, as a sixth man in the G League, he'd be a nice guy to come off the bench as a shooter. But if that's all we have for him, then we'll go to Rex Pfluger, my favorite player of all time. So maybe I'll be a little biased, but he was never fully healthy this year. You could definitely tell he was grimacing every time he came down from jumping. I'm surprised he played the season, with the exception of a few halves. He made a bunch of huge plays like the UNC rebound, the assist to win the game. He only averaged 5.2 points per game, but he did everything else pretty much. Another stat worth noting is he led the team in steals. I think they'll miss him, maybe not as much as Gibbs and Mooney, but I think what he brought to the team is really hard to replicate. Anything you have?
I felt like his first half season was pretty bad, but I mean he was shooting 29%. But then the second season, I think I think starting with the Clemson game, it was really like he really put it together. I think that's when he started to get over the ACL tear somewhat. I think you saw the athleticism never really came back, but I mean that's really a given when you have that. Um, I think he's represented Notre Dame as well as any player. I think he's the player from the group of seniors I think would be make the best assistant coach on the Notre Dame staff. I think I could see a future for that in him. I mean, I think it's up to him and Bray, but I think he would be great at that. I love Rex. I'm gonna miss him a lot, like the other two guys. He does like the little things well. I mean, he really you saw in the UNC game, he like makes all the defensive plays, grabs all the loose balls. Um, you can always use a player like that, really. So I don't know who's going to be that for us with him gone.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think Rex is going to be really hard to replace. Like you said, if he doesn't have if he doesn't want to go into like business or whatever, which it seems like he does, he could be a really good coach. Maybe in a few years, like the women's team with maybe Ryan Humphrey would be the head coach, maybe a pipe dream, but Ryan Humphrey is the head coach, Rex Pfluger is the assistant. That'd be pretty sweet. But
that would be interesting.
Mhm. But next, probably the best player on the not probably, undoubtedly the best player on the team, John Mooney, 16 points per game, 12.7 rebounds, second on the team in blocks, 1.3 steals per game, by far the most consistent player on the team. Really gonna miss him. Yeah, he was first team All ACC. Just really gonna be missed. Really great player. Him and Gibbs and Rex are just gonna be really tough to replace. Probably maybe an NBA player in Mooney. What do you think?
I mean, he was the best player. I mean, I don't know where it would be without him. You know, I mean, like a lot of guys might be more flashy at his skill set, but again, he's like steadily productive. Um, I think he shows great hope to like maybe a lot of guys are a year or two in, they're not great, and then he made that big leap the first year, and then another leap this year. He was one of the best players in college basketball, in my opinion. Um, no superstar, but I'd definitely call him like at least a star for us. One of my favorite Notre Dame players ever, really. It'll be hard replacing him, but I think we do have the talent to do it. But I can't say enough about how good he was for us.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think Gibbs, Mooney, and Rex are probably three of my top five favorite players in Notre Dame history. Yeah, I haven't been around for that long, but you could definitely put them up there. And then off of Mooney, we'll go to the other big man in the starting lineup, Juwan Durham. I know both like Juwan a lot. He showed flashes of being really good in the game. He needs to be more consistent, but he was a big contributor when Barry wanted to go big, and he was a decent sport when they went small. 7.8 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, both improvements from last year. I think this year is the year for Juwan Durham, probably the X factor on the team. You have anything to say about maybe your friend Juwan Durham, because he follows you on Twitter, but anything to say about him?
I've not interacted with Juwan. I did like my tweet where I said he can be the key to a great season.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Juwan a lot because I see the talent. My issue is, and this isn't meant to be bashing of him, but and I see this with other players on the team too. Like Hub he needs to be shown more. Like if they can get 12 and 8 out of him consistently, that would be that. I think that would be a good season. I think he's an underrated presence defensively. I think this season, he actually didn't. Nate actually played more minutes per game, 23 to 17 minutes per game. I think it was a good season for Juwan. I also think it can be better from him. So I'm looking forward to what he does next year, really, because I think it's now or never for him.
Yeah, I think his defense is really underrated. Kind of like you said in our interview with Ryan Humphrey, he described Juwan Durham as a defensive specialist, which was interesting. Juwan Durham averaged 2.1 blocks per game, which led the team, I'm pretty sure. He's really good at blocking off the guy, so it stays in bounds. Just another guy somewhat like Rex, who does all the little things. We just have to see a little more production out of him in 2020. And like you said, he did retweet my Prentice Hub video, which was pretty cool, even though I didn't tag him or he has nothing to do with the video. So nice guy. He doesn't want to get into TV, so maybe he'll be a future addition to the podcast. Who knows? So
I did see that he is getting his degree in that. That would be cool.
So yeah. But now on. Go ahead.
Do you think Juwan could have a career overseas? Because I think if he takes a Gavin leap, maybe that's a possibility. I don't know though.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like Jack Nolan said in our interview, he thinks he could go overseas. He said this year is going to determine whether he makes his money here or overseas. So we'll see. I think he's developing his post fadeaway pretty well. You could see him getting better all around. He has the tools to be better. Maybe he has to bulk up a little bit, but I think you're right. He probably could have a overseas career at some point. But yeah. And then now on to the Notre Dame sixth man. In my opinion, he was snubbed for sixth man of the year. His production went way up. He went from 6.8 points to 10.8 points this year, or 6.4 to 10.8, 37.7% from three. Maybe he doesn't have the ceiling that Prentice Hub or Nate has, or maybe even Durham, but I think he can be a really nice piece on a contending team. One of my favorite players on the team, Dane Goodwin. Anything you have to say about Dane?
Dane might be my favorite player going into this year, even if I don't know if he's the best one. He's a very good scorer. If you need a bucket, he might be that guy this year where if you need a bucket clutch, I don't know if they have that guy this year really. I think they went to Nate more so. But if it can expand, and that can be him if they need a clutch free, that can I think Dane is if he can be that guy, that's going to be really helpful to the team. One thing I like to see is an expansion of his contributions from just scoring. I think he's improving defensively, but if he can maybe I don't know if they'll need more playmakers, but I mean more the merrier really. So if he can maybe become like one of the better 3-and-D players in the ACC, that would be really helpful. I'm a big fan of Dane. I think this is a big year for him to growing as a player. So
yeah, I think if he can be TJ Gibbs in a couple years, I think that's probably success. Future of the program, along with this next guy, Nate Laszewski. 7.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, 31% from three, which was a regression. I thought it could have been a little bit better. I think he will be a candidate to make that sophomore to junior year leap like Mooney. Maybe he even has a higher ceiling than Mooney because of his size and his shooting ability and athleticism. You saw him get more confident as the year went on, his aggressiveness, he was attacking the basket. I really liked that, but the consistency just wasn't there. You did see him maybe become the 5 in a year or two. You saw him against Wake. He was guarding Oliver Sarr for a little bit, and he was pretty good. Anything you have to say about Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nate, even though the consistency's not there always, I think he has the tools to put it together and be an even better player than Mooney was. I think, because of his size and shooting talent, he can become that player. So I think maybe with a bigger role and Mooney not there, I think same with Juwan, that would go up. I was gonna say something and I forgot it.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about him moving to the 5. I think by senior year he could bulk up when Juwan leaves. He can do it then, but I think for now he's still very much he's still more of a 4 and might always be, but I think next year it's Taylor and him or a transfer. I think he can do that. I don't know if that's him right now, but hopefully he continues to grow. I'm a Nate fan. I like his talent, and I hope to see more out of him.
Yeah, definitely. I think he should probably move to the 5 at some point. Especially, I would think Zona is a 4. He said he was comfortable with both when we talked to him. But yeah, I think definitely does the 5. And Dad follows me on Twitter, so Mr. Leszewski, if you're watching, what's up? But yeah, now into Robbie Carmody. We didn't really see too much of him, but he played decent when he was healthy. I'm not exactly sure what his season high was, but I don't know if it really matters. He was a nice presence attacking the basket. He's got to get healthy this year. But I think the big thing is he showed how valuable his skill set is to this team because I don't think they were the same without him. Do you have anything about Robbie? I know it's a small sample size.
I mean, there wasn't much to see. I'll look up how much his season high was. I think it might have been something like 11 or 14 or something. So, I think it sucks that the first 2 seasons end this way, but we do get more years of eligibility. So his season high was 13 against Robert Morris. I've said this before. He adds a presence his team needs when it lives and dies by the 3. He can really attack the basket and open things up for a lot of fighting, a lot of hard, a lot of athleticism. So I would, with less. With Robbie, it's sorry.
Oh, go. I started recording on accident. Go ahead.
With Robbie, it sucks that the first 2 seasons ended the way they did. But I think when healthy, he adds for a team that lives and dies by the 3. He adds a great presence of attacking the basket to open up things for others. He plays with a lot of fire and passion, so hopefully not too much. We get 4 more years of Robbie. I think it was confirmed. So 2018 until spring of 2024. It's actually interesting. I don't know how many 6 years we've ever had, but it's probably not many. So I think Rob's an important guy for the future of our program. He's definitely the most talented player on the bench next year. They're really going to need him. So I'm interested to see how that shakes out, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't really talk too much about Robbie because he doesn't really play, but he could be a really nice asset in the future, especially if he's way older than the rest of the guys in his last 2 years. But let's move on to Nick Jokic, another guy I think could have an increased role this year. He averaged 5.7 points a game, or minutes per game, 0.6 points per game. Wasn't great. It didn't really seem like Bray trusted him, but it seems like he'll probably be the 6th or 7th man this year. So what do you think about him, Jim?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of weird how – well, first of all, I'll go over his season. I mean, he didn't do much. He was an occasional part of the rotation. In some games, like the Wake Forest game, he played 11, 12 minutes. it's kind of weird. Like once every few games, Bray would put him in there into the rotation, and it's weird because, like, as you said, it doesn't seem like he trusts him that much. I mean, we can argue the reasons for that, or if it's legitimate, he just doesn't. And then he goes ahead and says, "Oh, he's the sixth man for next year." So that's like a really weird jump to make. I'm interested to see how it does. I think it will be Carmody eventually, but there's no reason Joe can't be a good bench contributor next year, like in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think he ever confirmed that he. But either way.
Well, hold on. Something was said. So I think like it should be interesting because if Joe can be a solid bench player, that just adds because we're at about 0 guarantees on the bench right now. I mean, Carmody is never been healthy. Then you have who doesn't have much experience in 3 years. Then you have 3 freshmen and a walk-on. I think I don't know how much I love Joe being the 6th man, but if he can be a solid 7th or 8th man, no problem with that.
Yeah, so not too much to say about Jogo. This year is the big year, his 5th year. But on to Elijah Morgan, like you alluded to. He's a walk-on. He played well in the Duke game. He didn't really play at all, though. Scored his first college point. The thing about Morgan, though, is he's only a so he definitely could. He could be better when he's older. Maybe he could contribute at some point, but his height is great. Not too much to know about him. He's just going to be a nice guy around the program for the next few years. But yeah, now into our big question. Season successful.
Can I comment on Morgan?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So, Fletch, I mean, he's a walk-on, but he had some moments. He's probably one of I don't really recall the others if other walk-ons we've had have had D1 offers, but Morgan had one from Southeast Louisiana State. I mean, they're not Duke, but it's a D1 program. So who knows? Maybe Morgan becomes a walk-on contributor. Maybe by his senior year, he's like, maybe the 4th guard they have. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We'll see how that shakes out. But he's a good guy to have around the program. I don't know much about him, but it's good to have him.
Yeah. So now on to what the thing is maybe about. Was the season successful this year? Jake, you can go first.
It's hard to say yes, and I don't think you can say yes. And at the same time, I think it's hard to call it unsuccessful or a failure. What I would call it is, now, this is to a different proportion because of the expectations. It was like the Notre Dame football team a lot. Good, not good enough. I think that was the best way I could sum up the season. I'd say it was – we won't know how it ended, though. It's hard to really grade that because of how the season ended. But I would say within the own season, it was not a success. But I think it's a success towards the future as a program, a good building block, a good stepping stone to increase from 3-15 to 10-10 in ACC play. So I think it could be a successful launching point for us, but I think also they could have done better.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think it was a nice stepping stone. I don't think you can really expect a tournament team from a team that went 14-19 and 3-15 in the ACC, especially since we didn't get some one and done like Zion or whatever. I think it was successful to an extent, but you can't fully say successful if you didn't make the tournament, kind of like you said, but not too much to note there. I think next year, if we don't make the tournament, it'll be a failure. If we're an NIT team next year, that's definitely not good. But this year, I was somewhat okay with it. I would have liked Mooney to play in a tournament, though, but that wasn't happening regardless. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think an NIT run would have been good for them. It didn't happen, obviously, but I think that would have been a good experience. I think they could have done much. Overall, it was an okay year. But I think eventually the program has to get back to the tournament. I think if within the next 2 seasons, if this 2018 team class does not make the tournament, and then I think they'll be making a change. Really, I don't know if that's really that unfair to say. I'm not saying I necessarily agree, and I'm not going to speculate, but that's a possibility. So this class, they have to step up. I think they'll definitely make it in 2 years, but next year, I mean, it's time to go. I think like they wouldn't have scheduled Kentucky if Bray didn't think the team was ready. So it should be interesting to watch. So let's hope for some winning next year.
Definitely. I think that's a good place to cap off. That's all we have. But definitely next year should be a tournament team, should the season be normal or somewhat normal. That's kind of all we have. Thanks, Jake, for coming on again. We'll have some more videos with Jake, Luke, maybe Nolan on soon. Hopefully we'll have an interview at some point soon, but that's about all we have today. Jake, you have closing remarks?
It was good to be on.
All right, nice closing remark. There we go. But yeah, that's all we have today. Sorry if there's some technical difficulties. I'll try my best to edit them out. But that's all we have for today. Let us know if there's any videos you want to see soon. We have a few planned. But thank you guys for watching. Go Irish, and peace.